Today we are going to discuss regarding spleen. First, regarding the location of spleen. We had already discussed regarding the quadrants of abdomen. So, spleen is a wedge-shaped organ and it is located in the left hypochondrium and partly in the epigastrium. This is the exact location of spleen. And spleen is tetrahedral in shape. And it is a soft, highly vascular and dark purple in color. So now, regarding the dimensions of spleen, you can easily remember this dimension by remembering this trick. So you just place all the odd numbers here, 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9. So here 1 inch, and we all know 1 inch is 2.5 centimeter. So the spleen is 2.5 centimeter thick. And then 3, that is 3 inches. So the centimeter could be 3 into 2.5, that is 7.5 centimeter. So our spleen is 3 inches broad. And there comes 5, here 5 inches. So 5 inches is 12.5 centimeter and the spleen is 12.5 centimeter long or 5 inches long. Then 7 ounces, that is nothing but the weight of spleen. And finally this 9 extends up to 11. So this is the extension of the ribs. So the spleen extends from 9 to 11th ribs. So you just remember this trick. 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9. 1 inch thick, 3 inches broad and 5 inches long and 7 ounces weight, and it extends from 9 to 11th ribs. And this trick is also called as Harris dictum of odd numbers. This might be asked in MCQ questions. Harris dictum of odd numbers. And the 7 ounce of weight may vary from 75 to 150 grams. So now regarding the position of spleen. So this is our vertebral column. So there arises our 10th rib, and this spleen lies in the long axis of 10th rib. So now regarding the external features. In external features we have 2 ends, 3 borders, 2 surfaces, so this image is representing the position of spleen in relation to the left 9 to 11th ribs from the diaphragmatic surface. And this second image is representing the visceral surface of spleen. It's nothing but the diaphragmatic surface indicating the outer surface and the visceral surface indicating the inner surface. So first regarding the ends of spleen, we have anterior end and posterior end. And this one is posterior end. This anterior end is expanded and this posterior end is rounded. So now regarding the borders, there are 3 borders: superior border, inferior border and intermediate border. And this is the superior border, this is the inferior border, and in the visceral surface we will be getting our intermediate border. So the superior border is notched and it is near the anterior end, and this inferior border is rounded, and this intermediate border is rounded and directed to right. So we had seen regarding the ends, there are anterior end and posterior end, and we had seen regarding the borders, that is superior border, inferior border and intermediate border. So this is diaphragm. So now we are going to talk regarding the surfaces of spleen. So this outer surface is called diaphragmatic, as it is related to the diaphragm above. Diaphragmatic surface. And this diaphragmatic surface is convex and smooth. And this inner side of the spleen, which is related to the organs, is called as visceral surface. And in case of this visceral surface, it is concave and irregular. And in that irregularity, we can see lot of impressions of the visceral organs. So this is the visceral surface of the spleen here, and here comes the hilum of spleen where the blood vessels enters into the spleen. So now regarding the impressions, so here is the gastric impression where the fundus of stomach is related, and here comes our renal impression. So here left kidney is related. Here comes our colic impression, which is mainly splenic flexure of colon. And here is the pancreatic impression where the tail of pancreas is related. Already told this is the hilum of spleen where the splenic vessels, nerves are transmitted, and it also provides attachment to the gastrosplenic and lino-renal ligament. So this is all regarding the visceral surface of spleen. There are two types of relation in case of spleen. One is peritoneal and another one is visceral. So now regarding the peritoneal relation. So this is our spleen and this is our splenic artery, and here is the tail of pancreas. So now we are going to talk regarding the gastrosplenic ligament. So the name itself indicating that this ligament involves both the stomach and the spleen. So it extends here and here. This is the gastrosplenic ligament which connects the hilum of spleen and the greater curvature of stomach. And here in case of gastrosplenic ligament, we will be having short gastric arteries, lymphatics and the nerves. Then regarding the lino-renal ligament. So the name itself indicating that it connects the spleen and the kidney. So it extends from the hilum to the anterior surface of the left kidney. So this one and this one forms the lino-renal ligament, and it contains the tail of pancreas. You can see here that the tail of pancreas is inside the lino-renal ligament, and it also transmits the splenic vein, lymph nodes and sympathetic nerves related to it. Then at last regarding the phrenico-colic ligament. So it is very clear from the name that it relates diaphragm and the colon. It is not the attachment of spleen in specific. It mainly supports the anterior end of the spleen. So this is all regarding the peritoneal relation. First is gastrosplenic ligament, which extends from hilum to the greater curvature of the stomach, and it contains short gastric arteries, nerves and lymph nodes. Then comes the lino-renal ligament. So you can see here the lino-renal ligament. It covers the tail of pancreas, and this extends from hilum to the anterior surface of the left kidney. Then at last comes the phrenico-colic ligament, that is diaphragm and colon. So it is not specifically related to spleen. So it mainly gives attachment to the anterior end of the spleen. So regarding the visceral relation, we all know that the stomach is related to spleen in this darted aspect. So the first part which is related to the spleen is fundus of stomach. So here is the number 1. And then anterior surface of left kidney, this is left kidney. Then here comes the splenic flexure of colon. And here is the tail of pancreas. And this one is splenic artery which is attached to the hilum of spleen, and here comes the splenic vein. So this is all regarding the visceral surface relations. And in case of diaphragmatic surface, so we all know outside the spleen is related to the lung and also the ribs extending from 9 to 11 and mainly left side. So now regarding the arterial supply, and here comes our splenic artery arising from the celiac trunk, which is the longest branch of celiac trunk. The celiac trunk which is situated at the T12 and L1 vertebra level. If you have any doubt regarding the celiac trunk, you can check out our previous video. And this splenic artery enters into the spleen through the, already we had seen that it is covered by lino-renal ligament. So now regarding the branches of splenic artery, first it will give numerous branches to the pancreas. We all know that the pancreas is situated here. So it gives numerous branches to the pancreas. And the second branches, and they also give branches to the fundus of stomach, that is short gastric arteries. And at last it gives left gastroepiploic artery which runs in the greater curvature of the stomach in the downward direction, and it gets anastomosed with the right gastroepiploic artery running around from the gastroduodenal artery, where gastroduodenal artery is the branch of common hepatic artery, and common hepatic artery is the branch of celiac trunk. Pancreatic branches, one is, and second one is short gastric arteries, And third one, this left gastroepiploic artery. In case of spleen, we have different theories regarding the blood supply inside the spleen. One is open theory, another one closed theory, and some are believing in the compromise theory. In one of our previous video, we had discussed regarding the formation of portal vein and also regarding the portal vein in detail. So this portal vein is formed by the joining of superior mesenteric vein and the splenic vein. So splenic vein forms the major venous drainage of the spleen here. In case of splenic vein, we have different tributaries. First one is short gastric vein. So here it is short gastric vein. Those are all the tributaries. Then left gastroepiploic vein. And there will be numerous tributaries to the pancreas. And at last there comes the inferior mesenteric vein, which also drains into the splenic vein. So these four are all the tributaries of splenic vein. One is short gastric vein. Now regarding the nerve supply. So here sympathetic fibers through celiac plexus, and they are vasomotor in nature. So we all know that sympathetic activity are basically vasomotor. Regarding the functions of spleen, phagocytosis. So we all know that the spleen is one of the important component of reticular endothelial system, and in case of spleen we will be having lot of macrophages and phagocytes called reticular cells, pre-macrophages, modified reticular cells and endothelial cells, which involved in the process of phagocytosis. So what is happening here, in this phagocytes which are present in the spleen remove all the cell debris and also the old RBCs and other blood cells and also the other microorganism and filter the blood. And once the phagocytosis is happening, it will activate both the humoral immunity and cellular immunity. Next comes hemopoiesis. So here, spleen contributes for the formation of blood mainly during the fetal life. But the lymphopoiesis will be continuing throughout the life by the spleen. But in case of certain diseases, the adult spleen also causes hemopoiesis, mainly in case of CML and myelosclerosis. And then regarding the immune response of spleen, already we had discussed regarding the phagocytosis, which is one of the immune response which stimulates both the cellular and humoral immunity. So the direct immune response by spleen is antigenic stimulation, so that there will be increase in lymphopoiesis, that is lymphocytes will be more in case of cellular responses, and it also increases the formation of plasma cells for the humoral responses, because plasma cells contributes for the formation of antibodies which results in the humoral immunity. Then at last regarding the storage of RBC. So in case of RBC, we all know that the RBC lifespan is for 120 days, and at the end of 120 days, it will come to the spleen and break itself. There occurs the process of phagocytosis, and even after that, we can store RBC in spleen. So wherever there is any need for the RBC, it will be released by the spleen directly. Now regarding the histology of spleen. So in case of histology of spleen, we have four major components. One is fibroelastic tissue. So the fibroelastic tissues are nothing but the supporting tissues which forms trabeculae, and this helps in the contraction and the distension of spleen, and it will regulate the blood flow in the organ. And then the second component is white pulp, and the third one is red pulp. And this is the white pulp which is situated around the eccentric arteriole, and this white pulp forms the Malpighian corpuscles where the lymphatic nodules are situated. Malpighian corpuscle. Here we can see lymphatic nodules, and then comes the red pulp. So red pulp. So here we can see the red pulp. So all these areas around the white pulp is called as red pulp. So here in case of red pulp, we can see the collection of cells like all type of lymphocytes, we can see all type of blood cells, we can see like RBC, WBC and platelets, and we can see also the free and fixed macrophages here. And finally, the fourth component is vascular system. So vascular system which traverses the organ and permeates it thoroughly, that you can. So in case of histology, we have four components. One is fibroelastic tissue which forms the trabeculae, and this trabeculae helps in the contraction and distension of the organ and maintains the blood flow. Then comes the white pulp. This white pulp is seen are a group of lymphatic nodules which we can see around the eccentric arteriole and which forms the Malpighian corpuscle. Then comes the red pulp where we can see all type of lymphocytes, blood cells and macrophages situated here. And at last comes the vascular system which traverses and permeates the organ. So now regarding the embryonic development of spleen. It arises from the mesoderm in the cephalic part of dorsal mesogastrium. And here, basically, there will be lot of nodules in case of intrauterine life all fused together to form the spleen. And some nodules may fail to fuse and that will lead to the formation of accessory spleen. So this accessory spleen you can see in any derivatives of dorsal mesogastrium. So the derivatives were gastrosplenic ligament, glenorenal ligament, gastrophrenic ligament and greater omentum. And then we can see in the broad ligament of uterus. And at last in the spermatic cord also. This is all regarding the spleen. So now let us have a quick recap regarding spleen. First regarding the location, it is a wedge-shaped organ and it is located in the left hypochondrium and also in the partly in the epigastrium, and the organ is tetrahedral in shape and the organ is very soft and highly vascular and purple in color, dark purple. So now regarding the dimension of spleen, we can easily remember it with the help of a trick, that is we have to place all the odd numbers first, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 and 1 inch which is 2.5 centimeter. The spleen is 1 inch thick and 3 inches broad and 5 inches long and 7 ounces in weight, and it extends from 9 to 11 ribs, and these are totally called as Harris dictum of odd number. This you can see in MCQ point. And now regarding the position of spleen, you can see that the spleen is located in the long axis of the 10th rib. And now regarding the external features, in case of external features we have 2 ends, 3 borders and 2 surfaces. In case of 2 ends, we have anterior end and posterior end. Anterior end he can see here and it is an expanded one, and posterior end is rounded one. And then comes the border, superior border, inferior border and intermediate border. Superior border is notched, inferior border is rounded, and we can see the intermediate border and the visceral surface which is rounded and it is directed towards the right side. And now regarding the surfaces of spleen, there are 2 surfaces. You can see here the outer surface is diaphragmatic one and the inner surface is visceral one, and this diaphragmatic one is convex and smooth and this visceral surface is concave and irregular. So in case of visceral surface, as we had seen that it is concave and it will be having lot of visceral impressions. The first one is gastric impression. Gastric impression where it is related to the fundus of the stomach, and then comes the pancreatic impression where we can see the impression of tail of pancreas, and here splenic flexure of colon, and here we can see the left kidney impression, and here we are having the hilum of spleen where it receives the blood vessels of both the arteries and veins. Along with that it will receive the nerves and lymph nodes also. So now regarding the relation, in case of relation we have both the peritoneal and the visceral. So first peritoneal relation, first we are having the gastrosplenic ligament which connects the hilum of spleen from the greater curvature of the stomach and it traverses the short gastric arteries, and then comes glenorenal ligament which connects the hilum to the anterior surface of the left kidney and it traverses the tail of pancreas and splenic arteries, and then comes the phrenicocholic ligament which is not exactly attached to the spleen but it supports the anterior end of the spleen. So then regarding the visceral relation, you can imagine the stomach here, that is fundus of the stomach is related. Then this is the anterior surface of the kidney which is left kidney which is related, and here we can see the splenic flexure of colon, and here we can see the tail of pancreas. These are all the visceral relation. And in diaphragmatic surface we can see its relation to the lung and 9 to 11th ribs, mainly left side. And in case of arterial supply, so the main artery which is supplying the spleen is splenic artery, and the splenic artery gives 3 branches. One is pancreatic branches, like there will be numerous pancreatic branches, then short gastric branches to the fundus of the stomach, and then at last the left gastroepiploic artery which anastomoses with the right gastroepiploic artery. So in case of arterial supply we have 3 different theories related to the spleen, and it is open theory, closed theory and compromise theory. So now regarding the venous drainage, the main venous drainage is through the splenic vein, and let's see regarding the tributary. First one is short gastric vein which you can see here, then the left gastroepiploic vein which drains here, and then numerous pancreatic branches, and at last comes the inferior mesenteric vein. So we all know that the superior mesenteric vein and the splenic vein connects to form the portal vein behind the neck of pancreas. So if you have any doubt regarding the portal vein anatomy, just check out our previous video. And in case of nerve supply, it is supplied by the sympathetic fibers arising from the celiac plexus, and they are vasomotor in nature. So if you have any doubt regarding the nerve supply also, you can check out the previous video regarding the enteric nervous system in our channel. And now regarding the functions of spleen, first one is phagocytosis. as it is the main component of reticular endothelial system. Then it also contributes in hematopoiesis during the fetal life, and in adult life also it contributes whenever there is any diseases such as CML and myelosclerosis, and it helps in immune response, and it also helps in the storage of RBC. So now regarding the histology, there are four components. One is fibroelastic tissue, which forms the trabeculae, and this helps in the contraction and distension of the spleen and maintains the blood flow. Then the second thing is white pulp, which is lymphatic nodules present around the eccentric arteriole and forms the Marpegian corpuscle. And the red pulp, which is situated around the white pulp, and here it will be having all type of cells, and vascular system, which mainly permeates through the organ. And now regarding the embryonic development. So the spleen arises from the cephalic part of the mesogastrium, which arises from the mesoderm. And in intrauterine life, there will be lot of nodules which combine to form the spleen, and some nodules may fail to fuse and they become the accessory spleen. So this accessory spleen we can see in the dorsal derivatives of dorsal mesogastrium, such as gastrosplenic ligament, lienorenal ligament, gastrophrenic ligament, and greater omentum. And we can also see in broad ligament of uterus and also in spermatic cord. Thank you so much. This is all regarding the spleen. So if you have any doubts or queries regarding this topic, just comment below. Or if you have any topics for the suggestion to be discussed, then that can also be commented below. Thank you so much and happy learning.